So, you want to create montage videos, huh? Well, you're in luck, because I have a semi-medium comprehensive guide on how I make my War Thunder videos. In this guide, you will learn about my creative process and what goes into making my content. Not only that, much of the material in this video can be applied to other games as well. By the end, you would have learned how to create your own video game montages, or at least gained an appreciation for what I and other content creators like myself go through when we make these kinds of videos. Before we start, a quick disclaimer. Do not take what I'm going to present as absolute fact. Making videos comes with experience and there's no hard guide on how to make them. Every video is different, and every content creator has their own unique style after all. And lastly, I'm not trying to throw shade on anyone mentioned in the video. The first step in making your epic War Thunder video starts before you hit record. Before you start, you have to ask yourself some important questions, like, what software will I use? What vehicle do I want to showcase? Do I want cinematics? How much footage do I need? How much do I want to cut out? What kind of theme, feeling, or message do I want to portray? Questions like these are things that you're going to be asking yourself before and during production, so it's important to have at least a rough idea on what you want your video to be. Okay, now let's get into the meat of it. The most important part of making your videos, your software. It's what allows you to record and edit footage. You'll need two kinds of software, recording and editing. For recording, I personally use Radeon Relive because I have an AMD graphics card and it allows me to record footage at any time with minimal performance loss. You can pick whatever recording software you want. It's not too important, but just make sure that you have smooth and good looking footage. For editing, get an editing program that runs well and has a fair amount of features, or whatever works for you. I strongly recommend getting DaVinci Resolve if you're starting out because it has basically everything 90% of content creators will need and then some, and it's available for the absolutely free price of free. This part is rather straightforward. You play the game, hit record, do cool thing, and you're done. Well, easier said than done. There are a few steps before hitting the record button. First, pick your vehicle. Depending on what it is, the difficulty of gathering plenty of entertaining footage could vary drastically. What's important is that you know your vehicle and play it to its strengths, and try to mitigate its weaknesses, so you can have an easier time getting footage. A helpful tip would be to record yourself right before you get into action instead of recording the entire match. It helps save space, but this is optional. In terms of how much footage you need, it depends on how much you want to edit your video and how long it is. If your video is fast-paced and you want to cut your footage to ribbons like I do, you're going to need a lot of good footage. What I consider good footage would be things that could be used in a video, such as funny moments, dogfights, and especially kills. For perspective, my A7M2 video had what I consider the bare minimum requirement, and I had 47 minutes worth of footage. So that's about 10 minutes and 54 seconds of gameplay footage per minute of actual video. And that's not accounting for cinematics either. If you don't want to record that much footage, it's understandable. I would suggest going for an MKP style video if you're just starting out. They don't require too much footage and they're still fun to watch. In fact, MKP was the whole reason I started making War Thunder videos in the first place. I liked his videos so much that I decided to copy him. I will briefly touch on cinematics here. Cinematics are usually the things that precedes basically all of my videos. They are usually found in the intro and set the stage for the rest of the montage. When it comes to recording cinematics, just hop into your replays and mess around in there. I don't want to get into any specifics, so I'll link 2 videos on how to make War Thunder cinematics in the description. I personally watched these myself, and that's how I learned how to make War Thunder cinematics. I know it's weird to have an entire step dedicated to music since it's usually just background noise in most videos, but for me, music is the driving force. The music is what sets the tone and theme of your video. It decides whether your video has a happy-go-lucky, heroic, or dark and badass tone. And if your song comes from a video game or a movie, you can have your video's theme centered around that. For example, my Key 61 video was Fire Emblem themed, while my Spitfire video was Ace Combat 6 themed. The music choice also determines how I edit my videos, but we'll get back to that. Additionally, if you want to actually possibly profit from your videos, You have to use royalty-free music, or God forbid, license them. I recommend using video game soundtracks because most of the time they aren't copyrighted.
The memes. Show me.
Memes in montage videos generally take the form of videos, sound effects, or even images. Memes can be used to augment certain moments in a montage, which usually makes it more comedic. When it comes to acquiring the memes and sound effects, use whatever methods you see fit and steal from your family if you must. Alright, now that you've got your software, footage, memes, and etc., it's time to put them through the meat grinder known as editing. Editing is the most important step in video production because it shaves the fat off of your footage and polishes it into a refined video. How you edit your video is up to you, but I'll give you some tips and examples on how I do it. So my editing doctrine involves cutting out large portions of my footage, because we all know what we want to see in a montage video. The kills. A lot of kills. Because we don't care about the setup, we just want to see that red and white text, and a burning wreckage. This involves me cutting out sizable chunks of my footage. A 2-minute engagement could be cut down to less than 10 seconds in the final product. Things that I'll probably show in an engagement would be things like the merge, a bunch of cool maneuvers, and of course, the kill. You can pick and choose whatever you want to show in a dogfight, whether it's from beginning to end, or a few seconds just before the kill. Don't be afraid to cut out large portions of a dogfight if you deem them boring or there are too many things that are going on. Sometimes you can have a few turns, then nothing happens. Or it could be the opposite where there are too many turns and maneuvers and you want to show the kill quickly because timing reasons. Speaking of timing, what you generally want to do is maintain good timing with your footage. This ties back to me saying that music determines how I edit. This involves making sure your cuts and interesting moments, like kills, sync up with the notes of your music. I generally stick to the vocals when it comes to cuts since it's what people mostly focus on when they listen to music. Here's an example. And if there are no vocals, I try the next closest thing, like the foreground instrumentals in music. Here's another example. Sometimes, however, you have a meme in your video and all of a sudden, that overshadows the music. The memes I'm referring to usually take the form of dialogue, and now you have to cut your footage according to that. A couple of examples are found in my Spitfire, and P-47 video. Honestly, it doesn't really matter much. You don't have to stick to one or the other when it comes to cutting. I just cut wherever and whenever feels right. It all comes down to feeling and experience, and there's no one way to cut your video. It all comes down to maintaining good flow of the video. My interpretation of what good flow is when all the cuts in the video are timed perfectly and there's at least a little cohesion in what's happening in the video. What I mean by cohesion is that the audience can tell what's going on screen. Take this engagement for example. It lasts for about 20 seconds and I still want to cut it down to be much shorter. As you can tell, I'm doing a loop here to get on the A36's 6. I want to tell the audience how I got to my opponent's 6, but I want to show less. What do I do here? Well, I start with the merge. Then I cut up the footage based on how many notes there are in the sequence. Parts I would keep would be things like the merge, portions of the turn, and of course the kill. And there you go. Now you have a short little action sequence. Okay, I don't mean steal in the literal sense. I mean you can take ideas from other content creators and then put them into your videos. Think of it like art styles. We learn how to draw from others who came before. It's the same thing as creating YouTube videos. Like I said before, the reason I started making War Thunder videos was because of other content creators before me. Take NKP for example. He's the one who originally inspired me to create the BF109 experience, my first video. He's the one who introduced me to what War Thunder videos could be. A few recurring motifs in my videos such as the Ace Combat radio text, certain memes, and sound effects all came from NKP. As a fun fact, NKP was also the reason I learned about Ace Combat. Using transition effects and cinematics, I learned that from Squishy Sheep. And using impact effects such as zoom blur in this one sequence I literally stole, I learned from Crazy Pilot 123. So don't be afraid to take influence from others. It's difficult to figure out what you want to do when you're starting off, but there are people who have already done it, and you can learn from them. After that, you can start putting your own twists on the matter. And there you have it, a semi-medium comprehensive guide on how I edit my videos, and those are just the basics. Editing videos is something that comes with experience. I can't hammer it home enough that a guide like this will not turn you into an editing genius. It takes real hands-on learning. You have to actually make a video yourself in order to learn how to edit, because there's no better teacher than actual experience. I will be making a second part to this video, where I will teach you how to make the effects that I use, and my incorporation of memes. Eventually. I will also be answering questions in the comments. Till then, see you again.